All right, let's just dive right into this. आज के इस explainer में आपका स्वागत है. Today, we're unpacking one of the most visible, most talked about, and honestly, most fiercely debated parts of our entire democratic system, democracy ka engine. We're talking about political parties. Now, you might be thinking you already know the whole deal because, well, it's constantly on the news. But we're going to break this down step by step to really understand the mechanics of how this engine actually runs. Which brings us to a massive question right out of the gate. Why do we even need them? Seriously, if you think about the general public's mood, हर कोई इनको गाली देता है, पर इनके बिना काम भी नहीं चलता. Literally everyone complains about them, but our system absolutely cannot function without them. So why is that?
It's a really fascinating paradox. Political parties are omnipresent. I mean, they are everywhere. You could travel to the absolute most remote parts of the country, and people there might not know the intricate details of our Constitution, but they definitely know about local political parties. But of course, that high visibility doesn't exactly equal popularity. It's almost human nature to blame parties for everything going wrong in our political lives. We instantly associate them with social divisions, chaos, and corruption. But get this, 100 years ago, very few countries even had parties. Today, almost every single democracy relies on them. So what changed?
Section 1. What exactly are parties? Deconstructing the political machine.
The answer really lies in their fundamental definition. At its core, a political party is just a group of people who come together to contest elections and hold power in the government, with the stated goal of promoting the collective good. But here's the catch. Society has a million different views on what that good actually is, right? So parties have to pick a side. They reflect the fundamental political divisions that already exist in a society. This means they are inherently partisan. A party is basically known by the specific part of society it stands for and the specific interests it chooses to uphold.
What's really interesting is how you can slice up any political party into just 3 core components. Think of it like a 3-piece puzzle. First, you've got the leaders. These are the faces you see on TV, the ones making the big strategic decisions. Second are the active members. These are the workers on the ground actually organizing events and running the campaigns. And third, the followers, the loyal voters who strongly identify with the party's ideology. You literally cannot have a functioning political party without all 3 of these groups working together in tandem.
And if you want to see what that active membership looks like out in the real world, just look at grassroots campaigns. Things like wall writing during an election in Tamil Nadu, for example. Now, the Election Commission has officially banned this practice during election times, but parties used to argue is the absolute cheapest way to get their message out. It's a perfect, real-world example of how the abstract idea of a political party translates into very physical, highly visible work right on our streets.
Section 2. The 7 big jobs. Beyond the election rallies.
So, what exactly is their job? Well, first and foremost, they contest elections. How they do this completely varies globally. In the US, for instance, members and supporters often choose the candidates. But here in India, it's typically the top party leaders who select who gets to run. The second massive job is framing policies. Look, every citizen has a different opinion, and a government just cannot run on millions of different views. So parties take this massive, chaotic web of public opinion and distill it down into a few basic, digestible policy positions.
And here is exactly how those policy promises turn into reality. Step 1. You group public opinions into basic positions. Step 2. You win elections and form a government based on those positions. And step 3. You actually pass laws. What's kind of wild here is that even when a law is being heavily debated in the legislature, the elected members usually vote based on the explicit direction of their party leadership. It is almost completely irrespective of their own personal opinions. The party dictates the law of the land.
Moving right along to jobs 4 and 5. Naturally, the winning party gets the huge job of running the government. They recruit leaders, train them, make them ministers, the whole shebang. But please do not underestimate the losers. The parties that don't win play the absolutely critical role of the opposition. They voice alternative views, they highlight the government's failures, and they mobilize the public against bad policies. A democracy without a strong vocal opposition is honestly just a one-way street.
Finally, we have jobs 6 and 7. Parties constantly shape public opinion by raising issues and launching grassroots movements. And perhaps most importantly for the common person, they provide access. Think about it. If you're an ordinary citizen, it is significantly easier to just walk up to a local party leader to get help with a welfare scheme than it is to navigate the bureaucracy and approach a high-ranking government officer. Local leaders act as this super necessary bridge between everyday people and the incredibly complex government machinery.
Section 3. World without political parties. The what-if scenario.
So what if we just got rid of them?
Comparing a world with and without parties lays out the potential chaos perfectly. If we had 0 political parties, every single candidate would just be an independent. Sure, a government might eventually form, but its utility would be totally uncertain. Nobody could make any major national policy promises because an elected representative would only be accountable to their specific local constituency. Literally no one would take responsibility for how the entire country is run. Even if you look at non-party panchayat elections in our villages, where formal parties don't even contest, the village naturally splits into factions or panels that act exactly like parties anyway. It seems like forming parties is just a necessary human condition for managing large groups of people.
Section 4, the Party System Toolkit, how the world organizes politics.
When you zoom out, global democracies can be pretty clearly categorized into 3 systems. You have the one-party system, like in China, where only a single party is legally allowed to control the government. Then you have the two-party system, like in the USA and the UK, where power usually just bounces back and forth between 2 main giants. And then you have the multi-party system, like right here in India, where several different parties have a very reasonable chance of coming to power, either entirely on their own or by teaming up.
And teaming up is exactly what happens. In a multi-party system, parties often form large alliances or coalitions to win. Think of the NDA, the UPA, or the Left Front. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This system can look extremely messy, and yeah, sometimes it leads to political instability. But the crucial takeaway here is that in a country as massive and incredibly diverse as ours, this messy multi-party system is absolutely essential. It is practically the only way to ensure that our huge variety of geographic and social interests actually get a seat at the political table.
Section 5. Challenges and needed reforms. Fixing the system from within. Now, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The dark side of politics. Ye basically paisa aur power ka khel hai. Because parties become so solely focused on just winning elections, they often take some really dangerous shortcuts. We're seeing the growing role of money and muscle power. We see parties nominating candidates simply because they are incredibly rich, or shockingly, even if they have criminal backgrounds, just because they have a high chance of winning. And this creates a dangerous cycle where wealthy individuals and big companies who fund these parties start having a direct, outsized influence on national policies. It's a massive, undeniable concern for Democrats all over the world.
The system is clearly flawed. Internal democracy within these parties is often super weak, and the corruption is very real. So, the ultimate question we arrive at in this explainer is, how on earth do we fix this? Can we just banish parties altogether? Well, as we just learned, no, we really can't.
And this brings us to a really powerful conclusion straight from our source material. The problem of bad politics can only be solved by more and better politics. Look, it is incredibly difficult to reform a broken system if ordinary citizens just sit on the sidelines and criticize it from the outside. The true quality of a democracy fundamentally depends on the degree of public participation. तो सवाल यह है कि आप बाहर से बैठकर कंप्लेन करेंगे या better politics का हिस्सा बनेंगे? Are you ready to step up, participate, and actually be the engine of your own democracy? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. फिर मिलेंगे in the next one.